Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, spoilers, I already knew Madison was going to be at. Once again, I knew this well in advance. This was like even during the first, maybe like after the first half of season 7. Once again, it's just like those Google alerts. I need to probably deactivate them, but I always find out interesting stuff because of them, because that's always found, like, inadvertently find out about some, like, geeky, like, slash nerd news, but it's like, I should really turn those off. Because I wish I went into this not knowing that. There's plenty of things that were spoiled. I guess there was even, like, the finale trailer, which I didn't watch, that also had, like, Madison in it. But once again, I knew she was bad, just didn't know what her circumstances were. So, and it's even sad because I knew going into this because of that. It made the whole Alicia thing even sadder because you're like, right, she's not going to meet Alicia. Plus, Nick is dead, so I figured she wouldn't know. There's no way you would have enough information to know. I went into it maybe thinking maybe she knew about Nick, but maybe not Alicia. But turns out Madison is straight up kidnapping kids, which are like, Jesus, that's all kinds of jacked up. But it turns out she actually works for Padre. It's like, cool, the little escape paradise, well, not paradise, but the escape everyone's been looking for is a child kidnapping ring. So you're like, cool. Because it's like, wasn't that guy a senator, the person that they were following in Teddy's group? The one who knew about Padre. No, right. Teddy's people came down there and killed everyone, including the senator who knew about Padre. So Padre probably was like a last minute resort. So it makes me wonder, are the people who run Padre are like government officials who are like, right, this is kind of supposed to be the last ditch effort. So we do some effed up stuff for the, basically they're kidnapping, I guess, the next generation. So we're almost kind of bringing a little bit of World Beyond into it. But as I write that next generation, well, this is a generation who didn't just grow up during this, was born into this, technically speaking, because obviously a lot of the kids are probably, well, because some of them are older than Mo, but Mo's like obviously still an infant, but we know at least Ava's daughter, Odessa, I think she said she's 6 now, or maybe she was 6 when, because Madison had taken her like a year before or something. So there's kids ranging anywhere between Mo's age. I don't think they're taking teenagers. They're probably just taking like anyone that would be at an elementary school, I would assume. But once again, it's like, yeah, as a mother herself, it's like, how could you kidnap kids? And the sad thing is, it turns out that that's what Padre's whole thing is. Madison initially kidnapped kids because the more kids she kidnapped, the more they would give her information and help her find her own kids. But the point is, they break your spirit by making you kidnap families over and over. And I'm sure Madison never killed any of the parents, hence why the parents are able to come after her now, is because she never killed, well, she killed some of them this episode in process of rescuing Morgan, but it was more so about rescuing Mo. Because when Morgan first got there, obviously he couldn't find any food or anything like that, which, not trying to bring it into the real world thing, but it's kind of interesting. He's like, oh, he can't find any food for Mo. It's a little too timely. Once again, this was filmed so long in advance, like there's no way they would have seen this coming, because I think the baby food recall and stuff, the baby formula recall was only like in the more fairly recently. So I'm like, yo, that's just, once again, it's the apocalypse, so it's not like they planned that. It's just like interesting timing, because it's like, oh, you're trying to find food for a baby. It's like, ugh. Once again, not trying to bring it into the real world, but that immediately crossed my mind the moment I saw him like looking for food for Mo. That couldn't help but keep that in my mind because of everything going on. But nevertheless, when Morgan first got there, Ava was like, oh, you're going to want to stay away from this place. It's not a good place for children. I was like, what the hell is that about? Once again, we find out that kids are getting kidnapped. That's why Morgan got attacked, because they assumed that he was the collector, that he was the one going after babies. So, seems very cultish too, but like I said, I think this is supposed to be that last-ditch effort of like, oh, let's bring up the next generation of humanity and prepare them to... Which, I don't know, because part of me immediately was like, do you think this has anything to do with the Republic at all? I mean, once again, the C arc continues to be that, like, large, overarching thing that is connected every show. It's connected to the original show. Granted, they've steered away from that since the whole Jadis thing and Rick made their exits from The Walking Dead. Obviously, it was the main through line from World Beyond. And obviously, Al's storyline tied into that as well, but obviously like Al's kind of bowed out, but that's still going to be relevant to their story if they ever decide to come back into the fold. There might be situations that might force that, but I highly doubt it. But I think it's also such an interesting thing because I feel like not often do we have this situation where we have like, can we have characters coming together, but it's we haven't had it since season 4 where we had like other heroes meeting up with other heroes. Like, once again, we already pre-established, we knew Morgan going into it, and for like, oh my god, here he is meeting Victor, Nick, Alicia, and Luciana. Like, oh my god, like all our characters are coming together. Like, we haven't had that, so especially because this show has shifted from protagonist to protagonist. I mean, very much like the original show. The original show went from like Rick to Michonne to Daryl, I guess, would kind of be the lead, technically speaking. Obviously, it's an ensemble cast, but I guess like those will be your respective leads that have kind of taken lead of the show and kind of played the leadership role as each previous leader had left. So I guess this show kind of, I mean, even though we got the show from Nick's point of view, it was kind of through his lens. We were first introduced in this show and kind of followed him and his family. It was still like Madison who was kind of the leader. So Madison bows out, then it kind of becomes Morgan, and then it's Morgan for a while. So like to have both Morgan and Madison meet each other is actually kind of pretty monumental. Like I said, we haven't had this kind of meeting of the heroes since season 4. So that's fascinating. Especially, interestingly, it probably would have even been more so if Madison and Morgan had even met back then. But I like that at first because I guess he never saw the tape Al had made of Madison all that time. I guess because I couldn't remember, like, they referenced it last episode, but it'd been a while, so I didn't remember. But I was like, I guess he had never watched that. Probably only Alicia ever saw that. I don't remember if even Nick ever saw that before he died. I don't remember. I also think it's interesting that, because Morgan was like, oh, I'll tell you about your kids. It's like, yeah, we know about Nick. Obviously, Alicia's kind of in her situation right now. So, but I was like, oh, that's going to be depressing when he eventually has to tell her. It's like, oh. And once again, they were her main motivation for doing everything that she did. She tried to pretend like, oh, like it doesn't matter to me. Like the whole point is I don't care about my kids. She tried to convince herself, because pretending that she didn't care about her kids, she was knowing like, okay, at the very least, they're still out there. Maybe they're okay. That's why she wanted information from Morgan. So it at least gave her hope. No, okay, my kids are out there. I can't go anywhere near them because I don't want them to see me who I am right now. Because she's already been in that situation with her kids where they've had to witness her do stuff, especially Nick. Nick has super disagreed with her approach on a lot of stuff. I mean, because, Madison's made some choices that not everyone's been copacetic with. I mean, hell, every protagonist has been through this. Rick's made some choices not everyone, Carl tried. I mean, and the kids tend to like weave you back into a different direction. Carl led Rick to try to handle the whole Negan thing a little bit differently than he did. Madison always wanted to be a better person for her kids, but obviously like her and Victor always kind of flip-flopped in their approach to everything. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting because so many of the people that are still left have ties to Madison. So we have Luciana, Daniel, and Victor, and Charlie have ties to Madison. I don't think anyone else is, because obviously the only other person that would still have ties to, because they all had ties to Alicia, but none of them have met Madison. So, trying to think off the top of my head, like, yeah, I think those are the only ones who have any connection to Madison herself. It'd be kind of interesting for her to eventually meet Charlie again. I mean, which is even sadder. Because she also doesn't know Charlie's the one that shot Nick. Because that's right, Alicia and Charlie already worked that out. But it's also like, right, you betrayed us and you're the one who ended up killing one of my kids. That, but it's like Alicia forgave her. They worked through that. So probably don't want to bring that up. But also Charlie probably would say something because she is nearing the end. She probably would end up telling Madison. I hope she gets the opportunity to meet her. Probably be like, I'm so sorry that everything went down the way it did. I'd probably even be like, I'm sorry I killed Nick. It's like, wait, so that might be a whole ordeal in itself. Her and Daniel reuniting it. I mean, especially around the kid situation too, because it's like, right, Ophelia died, and now Daniel's kind of, where his headspace is now. Currently, he's better because of looking after Charlie and being there for her. Once again, Luciana, because she loved your son, so. And obviously, you and Victor have your history, so those connections are what I'm going to be so excited about seeing, like those. Not reconciliations, but those storylines reuniting, and just like, where do we pick up all the, like, it's been potentially years. Once again, I'm not 100% sure about the story, because obviously we know, like, from 5 to 6, there were months in between. I don't remember if there were months in between 4 and 5, you know? So, and then 6 to 7 was a couple months as well, but it's never, like, full-blown, I don't know, because obviously the original Walking Dead had way more time skips here and there, so... Because even the original series did years, because Judith getting older and obviously RJ being born, so they've definitely jumped a lot of years. Because it's, once again, been like 12 years since the fall, basically, and I don't know how long it's been in Fear, because they kind of kept that a little vague. At least World Beyond, we knew it was like, obviously it's been like 10 years since the fall at that point in time, so once again, where the time frames of all the shows kind of connect. But regardless... Getting back to it, but obviously, like, it's like moment Morgan saw the tattoos on her, it's like, oh my god, you're Madison Clark. It's like, she's like, how do you know my name? It's like, I know your kids. It's like, yo, not just your kids, but a lot of people you used to roll with back in the day. That's kind of crazy. I love that. Once again, I love that he didn't know who she was in the beginning, because he didn't know her face, but he knows her enough because he heard her kids and everyone talk about her. So it's kind of crazy to meet each other in these circumstances where you're kidnapping kids. She's also got that whole thing where she's like sucking down oxygen. And at first I was like, what's she doing that for? I was like, right, probably like her lungs are probably completely jacked up from like the smoke inhalation. Like all that smoke probably stuck to her lungs. So she's probably in a very bad case. Like, I don't know if I'm sure that's going to hamper a lot of her life going forward. But I'm sure, like, it's been a while too. So like, it's probably only like her lungs and stuff have probably degenerated like even more over the time frame. But still. But now she's going to help Morgan get his kid back. But it's like, you're going to have to find something in exchange. Padre is you're going to have to bring them a kid. But even if she even says it later on, like, there's no guarantee that would have worked. Because they're all about saving children. So they're not going to exchange one child for another. But, because they would have probably still eventually tracked Morgan down. Because it seems like she's like their main collector. But they probably have other people too. Because they say like Madison is the best collector, like she's collected the most kids, which is kind of sad to know, like, oh, you're super proficient at this, you're actually the best we've ever had, which is kind of like not something Madison wants to be proud of doing, but it's like, right, it's for the sake of getting back her kids, which is ironic considering everyone else is trying to get their kids back from her. But to the point she's kidnapped so many kids, she didn't like. I was wondering what was going on with this Ava thing, where it's like Morgan was reluctant to do it because he's like, right, the moment we take her, because we'll exchange her baby, but at least she'll be pregnant, so they'll take her in. Sad thing is, eventually the children and parents would be separated. It's like, why? Because it's like attachments are a bad thing. I get the mentality, because it's been something we've seen time and time and time again, how people in this series have been willing to sacrifice, kind of do some pretty horrendous shit for their family, for the people that they care about. And those connections, they can kind of get in the way. Once again, it kind of feels like an almost Civic Republic point of view. That's why I feel like this definitely screams SR, and I just don't know if there's any correlation there, if there's any connection there. But the CR is more so about, like, no, putting a lot of your personal feelings and stuff aside, and about going for what is better for the greater good, like the whole rather than the individual. So it's like putting your personal feelings aside and doing whatever is necessary to make everything work out, is essentially, right? So I could definitely see a correlation there. That's why I'm feeling like there has to be that ideology is too aligned with the CR for there to be no connection. I mean, maybe it's not, but like that would be interesting. I mean, because we know that the CR has military people connected to it. So Padre's like a government thing, so there has to be a deeper connection in that regard. So this could be our way to kind of bring in maybe another lane of the CR back into the fold, because once again, it seems like that left off the moment Al left the show, but you never know. This could be their way to kind of bring that back in. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because the boat at the end, I was like, well, when Michonne was looking for Rick back in season 10, the last place she found Rick was on a boat, which we know he was taken by like the CR. He's one of those people that they've taken an interest in. So I'm like, okay, so does that fill that in even more, that there's a connection here? Is Rick a collector, or was he made a collector or something like that? Makes you wonder, which is kind of even sadder if he ended up being one, because I mean, if that'd be interesting too, because him and Madison are direct comparisons to each other. It's like, yeah, both of your sons are dead, but your daughters are still out there alive. I mean, obviously, Alicia's hanging on, but I'm like, oh, that's an interesting parallel. I didn't even think about it just now. It's like, maybe that's kind of... I think, like I say, I bring it up every time. I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but there's so many parallels between characters between, like, this and the original show that you can draw. Like, you know, once again, I made, like, the John Dory Jr. comparison with the whole bridge situation to how everything played out with Rick. Like, obviously them being, like, how things could have ended versus how they actually did. So I don't know if they ever did that intentionally or whether that was kind of an unintentional thing, or I mean there was some level of intention, but regardless. But I figured Morgan was going to have a guilty conscience about it, but once again, it's like doing whatever it takes for your family. It's like, right, this is my kid, especially because he's in a bad spot. It's like after everything they've been through, I need my kid back. I need grace because he's struggling to kind of handle things on his own. So they're about to do this whole thing, but it turns out Ava isn't pregnant. I was like, because at first I was like, wait, did she have a miscarriage or something? I was like, wait, were you never pregnant? It's like, yo, whole thing was a con just to get Madison in. I was like, because that's probably why she made sure to have all those pregnancy tests, but she didn't realize like Morgan wasn't the collector at the time. The moment she found out like, oh, you have a kid, there's no way you are the collector. So she was like, right, she was just staying there. Because I was worried the moment Madison was like, no, I know I have kids on my own. I was like, oh, don't get too, but it's like, right, the whole thing was a ploy. So Madison took her daughter a year ago, but Madison, once again, has been stealing so many kids, and the numb herself, she probably never got to attach. It's like, forget the faces, forget the names, like, it doesn't matter. Take the babies, drop them off, who cares? I'm probably going to end up forgetting their faces, just like the parents. It was her way of dissociating, you know? And now Ava's like, right, now you tell her where her kids are, because those people who are trying to get their kids back will kidnap her kids and then will force her hand, which is kind of an effed up cycle, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to get their kids back. But then Morgan has to drop the bomb on her of like, Nick died, he got shot, Alicia got bit, she's been fighting an infection for months, and in that moment, Madison breaks down because it's like, everything I've done, like, if I'd known this ahead of time, I wouldn't have kidnapped Mo, because she's like, if I didn't do this, Padre would have eventually tracked down Nick and Alicia and forced them to do it, or kind of force her hand to be like, yo, you either do this or we kill your kids. So, you know, so either way, she thought, I'll keep doing this, I'll keep my kids safe, they'll be out there and they're fine. But to find out, like, right, while I was away, they died. Like, Nick sadly died pretty shortly after everything. You know, it was still a little while after the stadium and they were on their own for a while, but it's sad that things ended that way. It's also a little sweet, too, because, like, well, the last shot of, like, Nick's episode, once again, I don't think it was him remembering that moment when he was dying. I think it was just flashing back to the parallel thing, but it was him and Madison in that flower field together, so. But for Madison, it's kind of like, there's no point. I'm not going to keep doing what I'm doing because the only reason I did it was for my kids. Now you're saying they're potentially gone. So she wants to kind of give up and is like, right, the only way you're going to get out of this, Morgan and Ava, is if you turn me over, because that way they'll know for sure you're not on my side. So they take Madison and they're going to and I guess that's their way of killing people. Dig them in the hole, put them there, bury them, and basically make them drown when the tide comes in. Because we see all those walkers with like crabs on their face and stuff. I was like, I was wondering if they just killed them and left them there to turn, but it's like, no. But when it was all said and done, Morgan like, we can't do this. He's like, all these people are walking to their deaths, but Ava still went alone because she's like, I have no choice. I made a promise I'd return this toy to my daughter, and I'm going to do just that. The moment she said, I was like, yeah, Ava's dead. It's like, man, this show is killing me with the whole like, oh, let's introduce this character you feel sympathetic for one episode. Oh, they're dead. Whether it's Paul with the Alicia episode, or this, or even, Will. I mean, Will technically got 2 episodes. He got the premiere, he got the episode where we finally caught up with Alicia. What was that, episode 8, maybe? Where we found out exactly what happened to her, how she got to where she is. And then, like, technically he got, like, maybe 1 or 2 other appearances, because I think it was only 1 other appearance in that. I think that still counted in as that same episode, because Alicia found out he was dead and that Strand killed him. So I think that still counted as the same episode. So I'm trying to think, like, did he make any, like, maybe he made other, like, slight Walker appearances, but it's, like, 2 episodes at best, but it's, like, yeah, like, these one-offs are just kind of depressing, dude. I mean, it just kind of plays into, like, man, And I guess that also why this show lends itself very well. I mean, obviously, was it Tales of the Walking Dead or something like that? It's going to be the anthology series, which we've seen a lot of like familiar actors are like, whoa, hey, you're kind of getting into the Walking Dead universe, even if it's like a one-off episode. That's still kind of cool. Given the opportunity, Morgan decided to save Madison. Because initially he was like, the reason I'm doing this is to get my daughter back and you're going to help me do it. But now that Madison couldn't help, Morgan went to save her because he's like, you don't deserve to die like this. And for Madison, it's like, I do. But saying what Alicia said of like, no one's gone until they're gone. It's like Alicia said that's what you used to say to her. So you have an opportunity to make things right as long as you're still here. But for her, it's like, I don't, after all that I've done, she was thinking about all the people, all the hurt she's caused. It's like, how can I ever make things right? And especially when they find out the people there, the last walkers they end up dealing with are all the people, the parents that went to the dock and brutally got murdered. Madison was like, I told them not to go there. Even Morgan told them not to go. And like I said, the moment Ava went, I was like, yeah, she's dead. Of course, and I wasn't expecting a quick turnaround like that. But yeah. Morgan blames himself because he's like, I dragged her into this. If I had never mixed her up in this, if I had not like convinced Matt, like she wouldn't even been here in the first place. She would have still just been looking for the person. Like, I think eventually she was always going to like head down this path because she was going to do whatever it takes to find her daughter. So now Morgan's extra motivated. It's not just his child he's got. I wonder, is he going to find Odessa and kind of adopt her kind of similarly, or at least take her into the fold, kind of very similar to the whole Grace thing with Aaron in The Walking Dead. So maybe there's kind of a parallel you can make there. But Madison feels like she says it herself that she's gone, but she's willing to help Morgan because he isn't gone. They're still like, I might be gone, but you're not lost. You haven't lost your humanity. You haven't lost yourself. So I'm going to help you get the Padre and get your daughter back. After that, I don't know. Because she still wonders if Alicia's out there. But I think even then it's like, even if I do find Alicia, do I ever want to see her again? Considering all that I've done, she'll never forgive herself. So they make a deal. It's like, cool. They meet up with the people that were meant to pick up Madison. Okay, Morgan here will help us. There's a group of people out there on a boat, and there's children. I believe there. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Are there? Because like they probably wouldn't take. Once again, they wouldn't take Charlie because she's a teenager. I'm trying to think, like, is anyone... I know they're lying. I know he's lying because it's like, oh, there's other people there. But it's like, when the timing comes, dude, the run-ins with each other, it's going to be wild. Because it's going to be... Once again, it's like, I can't wait for other characters to meet up again. All right, I'm so stupid. I forgot about a certain other character. I can't believe I forgot to reference her, too. June. I mean, obviously, like, June and Charlie are people she met. She actually doesn't know June by her real name because she'd be like, oh, Naomi. Sorry, it's actually June. It's June! Those conversations I'm actually getting super hyped for. But, yeah, at the end, Madison's like, right, there's something I should have told you. I have no idea where Padre is because even as a collector, she's still blindfolded, showing that they don't fully trust her because they're like, yeah, we can't let anyone unless you're, I guess, like OG members of this. Anyone from the outside brought in until you probably reach a certain position in ranking. Some basic question like, who's the main person behind this? Who's running this whole operation? Once again, I don't think it's out of the boat. I think the boat is they probably use that to get around. That's their main way. Obviously, you kind of are able to avoid the aftermath of everything going down in Galveston with the bombs and stuff. So we've kind of escaped that for now. Whether there's anything that necessarily comes from that, whether that will be a continuous issue anymore, probably not, because we're probably moving away from Texas. Once again, we haven't been out in the sea since season 2, so it's going to be wild to be back out potentially, now fully potentially back out in the water. I'm sure they'll hit and land from time to time, but how that correlates is definitely going to be interesting. What new faces we'll get introduced to, who are going to be temporary people, like one-off episode people, who are going to be recurring people we see in the future. So, Season 8 of Fear the Walking Dead, obviously, we're getting a Season 8, so I'm so curious to see where that goes. We won't be getting this until after the OG will be finishing, because I think what I was reading, I just quickly Googled some stuff, they're starting filming later this month, I think, and I think it was saying they're going to go filming until March. So that probably means, like, maybe early winter-ish, maybe we'll get some Fear, and then like they'll be finished filming by the time the show was supposed to come back for its second half of the season, because, you know, your first half and second half of the season. But the OG series, the final, 8 episodes, is it? Yes, 8 episodes of the original series are coming back in the fall, I believe. So that's going to have its run, and then maybe Fear's going to start up afterwards. I don't know where, because I know there's the Tales of the... I don't know when that's airing. That might be airing in between this and the original, or maybe in between the end of the original and the beginning of season 8 of this. Because I know there's been announcements about the spin-off with Daryl. It used to be Daryl and Carol, but Melissa Ride backed out of the project for respective reasons. Respect those reasons. I know people kind of chastised her and gave her shit for all of that. Like, everyone has whatever her reasons are, those are her reasons. Respect her reasons, leave it at that. That's why I didn't read into it too much, because like her reasons are her reasons. I don't need her to explain it to me why she decided to back out of her project. Like, oh, it sucks, but it is what it is. Then there's also, spoilers, the Negan and Maggie apparent spinoff that's supposed to be taking place in New York, I think is what I heard. I remember hearing that on Fat Man Beyond. I think there's news that's come out about that. I've seen glimpses of it. I just haven't read into it too much, because once again, I didn't want any spoilers, but it is what it is. You just kind of can't help it. Sometimes when I listen to podcasts that cover news, of course I'm going to, some of that stuff going to slip through the cracks, but nevertheless, with the Madison's return, I'm very, very excited to see where things take us in season 8. I hope it isn't a thing of like, yeah, we're bringing her back just to kill her off. It's like, I hope Madison sticks around for a while, because I mean, it might be like she might survive the entire season until the very end where she sacrifices herself, because it might be her way of seeing this off to the end, or maybe it could be a send-off to her character that she's going off to find Alicia and being there with Alicia before, like, we settle this whole Padre thing, and then she goes off on her own to find Alicia and see if she's still alive, or maybe, because once again, I haven't read into it too much. I'd rather not know, but if you want to let me know, you can. Whether or not it's, once again, Alicia, because that's the actress's real name, but whether or not that was her final episode for now. Like, she could always make future appearances, but that was her exiting the show in her own remark. Once again, very, like, Michonne-esque in that regard, but because she's also got a limited amount of time, they could always fold that back into the story whenever they want to. Or maybe it wasn't even an exit. Maybe it's like, we'll see you next time, being like, yeah, we don't know when the next time we'll see Alicia, but maybe it wasn't even a full-blown exit. It's just, either way, I feel like that character can always pop up when the story calls for it. So we'll see how things play out, because she still has her mission, and anyone that she points in the right direction of Padre, be like, oh yeah, I met Alicia. It's like, oh, when'd you met Alicia? I met her like a week ago. Was she doing better? It's like, yeah, I didn't know she was, so conversations like that. Once again, Victor and Madison, that dynamic duo being reunited is going to be so exciting too. So I'm very, very excited to see where season 8 takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.